Alina Reeves stood in the grand hall of Lumina Apex Station, staring at the council members who sat in their tall chairs above her. She had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now, and every single day had tested her patience. The Galactic Council chamber was massive, with glowing lights and floating screens everywhere. Representatives from 40 different alien species looked down at her, waiting for her to speak. She took a deep breath. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. She was angry, more angry than she had ever been in her life. Earth had joined the Galactic Council 47 years ago. It had seemed like a dream come true back then. Humanity finally had a place among the stars, working with other intelligent species to build a better future. At least, that was what everyone had thought. The reality was very different. The Council treated humans like children. They made endless demands for money, resources, and tribute. They set rules that only seemed to apply to Earth and other young species. The older, powerful species did whatever they wanted. Alina had spent 3 years asking for help. Earth's colonies on the outer edges of human space were being attacked by raiders called the Kryn. These pirates killed people, stole everything of value, and disappeared before anyone could stop them. The Council had ships. They had weapons. They had promised to protect all member species, but they did nothing. 2 weeks ago, Lena had received the worst news of her life. New Johannesburg, a colony world with 200,000 people, had been destroyed. The Kryn had attacked with their entire fleet. They had burned the cities, killed anyone who fought back, taken thousands of people as slaves. The Council's defense fleet had been only 3 hours away. Alina had begged them to help. She had sent emergency messages. She had even called in every favor she had. The Council fleet never moved. They said they needed proper authorization. They said the paperwork had to be filed correctly. They said Earth needed to pay additional fees for emergency protection by the time the authorization came through. New Johannesburg was ash and ruins. Alina looked up at the Council members now. The Zypherian matriarch Keleth sat in the center, her ancient face showing no emotion. She had been leading the Council for over 200 years. Next to her sat representatives from the Draven Supremacy, the Thalaxian Empire, and dozens of other species that Alina had learned to hate over the past 3 years. Ambassador Reeves Keleth said in her cold voice, "You requested this emergency session. Please state your business quickly. We have important matters to discuss." Important matters. 200,000 dead humans were not important to them. Alina reached into her coat and pulled out a small data crystal. She held it up so everyone could see. Matriarch Keleth honored council members, Alina said. Her voice was steady now. "I am here to deliver an official message from Earth's government and people." She placed the crystal on the scanner in front of her. Immediately, the document appeared on every screen in the chamber. The council members leaned forward to read it. Alina did not wait for them to finish. She had memorized every word. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. We will no longer pay tribute. We will no longer follow council laws or edicts. We will no longer recognize the council's authority over human affairs or human space. This withdrawal is permanent and non-negotiable. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens were shouting in dozens of different languages. Some were angry. Some seemed shocked. A few were actually laughing. Keleth raised one hand, and the chamber fell silent. "Ambassador Reeves," she said slowly, "you cannot be serious. Earth is a junior species. You have been part of this council for less than 50 years. You depend on our protection, our trade routes, our technology. Without the council, Earth will be isolated and vulnerable." Alina smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We were vulnerable with the council," she said. 200,000 of my people died while your ships sat in dock. You talk about protection, but you have never protected us. You talk about fair trade, but you take everything and give nothing. You call us a junior species, but you treat us like slaves." A Draven representative stood up, his scales rattling with anger. "This is rebellion," he hissed. "The council has laws against this. We will impose sanctions. We will blockade your worlds. We will send our fleets to enforce compliance." Lena turned to face him directly.
"Try it,"
she said simply. The chamber went completely silent. No one had ever spoken to the council like this before. Smaller species did not challenge the council. They did not threaten. They certainly did not look the council's enforcers in the eye and dare them to act. Kelleth stood up from her chair. She was very tall, and her presence filled the room. Ambassador Reeves, you are making a terrible mistake. Earth is not ready to stand alone. You do not have the military strength. You do not have the technology. If you do this, you will doom your species to destruction. Elena gathered her things. She had said what she came to say. There was nothing left to discuss. Matriarch Kelleth, with all due respect, you have no idea what humanity is capable of. You have kept us down for 47 years. You have controlled what technology we could access. You have limited our growth and our potential. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. But we have not been idle. We have not been sitting and waiting for your permission to advance. You are about to learn that Earth is not the weak, dependent species you think we are. She left the chamber. Behind her, the shouting started again. Threats were made. The council members demanded that she return immediately. They talked about war, about punishment, about making an example of humanity. Alina kept walking. She had a ship waiting. She needed to get home, because in 24 hours, Earth was going to activate a weapon system that the council did not know existed. In 24 hours, everything was going to change. She just hoped humanity was ready for what came next. 20-4 hours after, Elena Reeves walked out of the council chamber. Humanity activated the Heisenberg Array. It was a network of quantum disruptors that Earth had been building in secret for the past 10 years. The array surrounded all 47 human star systems like an invisible wall. Dr. Marcus, 10, stood in the control center deep beneath Earth's surface. He was the lead scientist on the project, and he had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Around him, dozens of technicians sat at their stations, monitoring screens and checking numbers. Array power at maximum, one technician called out. All nodes responding correctly. Marcus nodded. His hands were sweating. He had run this test 1,000 times in simulation, but this was real. If anything went wrong, Earth would be defenseless against the Council's inevitable response. Activate the barrier, he said quietly. The technician pressed a button. On the screens, Marcus watched as the quantum field spread out from each node, linking together until it formed a complete sphere around human space. It was invisible to the eye, but sensors showed it clearly. A wall that nothing could pass through without Earth's permission. Barrier is stable, the technician reported. All systems are green. Sir, we did it. We are completely sealed off. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Now they would see if it really worked. He did not have to wait long. The Council sent their enforcement fleet within hours. 12 massive warships, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a planet. They approached the barrier at the edge of human space. Near the colony world of Nova Perth, the fleet commander sent a message to Earth, demanding that the barrier be lowered immediately. When Earth did not respond, he ordered his ships to fire. The weapons hit the barrier and simply disappeared. The energy vanished into the quantum field like water sinking into sand. The barrier did not even flicker. The fleet commander tried again. He used more powerful weapons. He tried to ram the barrier with his ships. Nothing worked. Then something strange happened. As the lead ship touched the barrier, all of its systems shut down. The engines went dead. The weapons stopped working. Even the life support systems failed. The ship began to drift, completely powerless. The other ships pulled back quickly, but the damage was done. The lead ship would have died in space if the barrier had not gently pushed it back out. As soon as the ship crossed back over the barrier line, all of its systems came back online. The fleet commander sent an urgent message to the Council. The barrier was real. It was not a bluff. Earth had technology that should not exist. On Lumina Apex Station, Matriarch Kelleth read the reports with growing concern. She called an emergency meeting of the senior council members. They gathered in a private chamber, away from the other species. This changes everything, said the Draven General. Earth has violated the technology accords. Only the Council can authorize advanced defensive systems. How did they develop this without our knowledge? Keleth was silent for a long moment. She was old, and she had seen many things in her 200 years of leading the Council. But this was new. This was dangerous. We have been controlling which species can access which technologies for centuries, she said slowly. We did this to maintain order. To prevent wars, to keep dangerous weapons out of the wrong hands, and to keep ourselves in power, added a Thalaxian representative quietly. Keleth looked at him sharply, but she did not deny it. The truth was, the Council had been keeping younger species dependent on purpose. It was easier to control them that way. It was safer. Or so they had thought. If Earth can hide this level of technology, what else have they been developing? The Draven General asked. And more importantly, what is stopping other species from doing the same thing? That was the real question. The Council's power was based on a carefully maintained balance. They controlled the technology. They controlled the trade routes. They controlled the military might. But if species could develop their own advanced technology in secret, then the entire system was built on sand. The answer came faster than anyone expected 3 days after Earth activated the barrier. The Bathari Collective sent a message to the Council. The Bathari were a species that had been part of the Council for over 100 years. They had always been quiet, always obedient, always paid their tribute on time. Their message was simple. They were withdrawing from the Council, effective immediately. Before the Council could respond, the Bathari activated their own defensive system. It was not a barrier like Earth's. Instead, they released millions of small drones that surrounded their worlds. The drones could replicate themselves, creating more and more until space around Bathari territory was filled with them. Any ship that entered without permission would be swarmed and torn apart. The Council had not known. The Bathari were building these drones. They had not even suspected. Within 2 weeks, 17 more species withdrew from the Council. Each one revealed some kind of hidden technology or weapon. The Narration hive showed bioorganic warships that could heal themselves. The Corvesh had dimensional weapons that made enemy ships disappear into folded space. The Rendaki unveiled planet-sized energy shields. All of them had been working in secret. All of them had been waiting for someone to make the first move. Earth had given them the courage to break free. Marcus Chen watched the reports with mixed feelings. The barrier was working perfectly. Human space was safe, but the galaxy was falling apart. Trade routes were collapsing. The Council's currency, which everyone had used for centuries, was becoming worthless. Species that had relied on Council protection were now vulnerable to pirates and raiders. Worlds that depended on Council-organized aid were facing starvation. We broke it, Marcus said to Elena during a video call. The Council was terrible, but it was holding things together. Now, everything is falling apart. Lena looked tired. She had not slept much since returning from Lumina Apex. The Council was not holding things together, she said. It was holding everyone down. There is a difference. Tell that to the people who are suffering now, Marcus replied. Before Elena could answer, an urgent message came through. It was from Matriarch Keleth herself, using an ancient emergency channel that predated the Council. The message was brief and cold. Ambassador Reeves, you have destroyed the only thing keeping the galaxy from chaos. You think you have freed your species, but you have condemned all of us. The wars will start soon. Millions will die. Billions, perhaps. I hope Earth is proud of what it has done. You have killed us all. Lena closed the message. She sat in silence for a long time. Outside her window, Earth looked peaceful and blue. But among the stars, old hatreds were waking up. Species that had been forced to work together under Council rule were now free to settle old scores. Raiders and pirates were becoming bolder. Military alliances were forming and breaking apart. Marcus had been right. They had broken something. The question now was whether they could build something better in its place, or if they had simply unleashed chaos that would consume the entire galaxy. Elena looked at the reports piling up on her desk. Then she made a decision. She opened a new channel and started recording a message. To all species who have withdrawn from the Council, she began. Earth invites you to a summit. We cannot go back to the way things were. But perhaps together, we can create something new, something better, something built on cooperation instead of control. She sent the message and waited. Now they would see if there was any hope left for the galaxy. 3 months had passed since Earth activated the barrier. The galaxy was burning. Elena sat in her office, reading reports that made her sick to her stomach. The Thalaxian Empire had seized 3 council protectorates in a sudden military campaign. The Kryn Raiders, seeing the chaos, had united their clans for the first time in history and were attacking everyone. Trade routes that had operated safely for centuries were now dangerous. Ships were disappearing. Entire colonies were going silent. The council still existed, but barely. Half of its members had left. The ones who remained were mostly the powerful old species who had benefited most from the system. They were trying to hold on to their control, but it was slipping away. Elena's invitation to a summit had received mixed responses. Some species wanted to talk. Others blamed Earth for everything and refused to communicate. A few had sent threatening messages, promising revenge for the chaos humanity had caused. Another humanitarian crisis report, said James Park, Earth's military advisor. He placed a data pad on Elena's desk. The Velshari colony worlds are running out of food. They used to get supplies through council distribution networks. Now, those networks are gone, and they are starving. Lena rubbed her tired eyes. She had not slept well in months. What about the species who withdrew? Are any of them helping? Some are trying, James said. But everyone is focused on defending their own territory. The Bathari are fighting off Kryn raids. The Narration hives are at war with the Thalaxians. Nobody has resources to spare for humanitarian aid. There was a knock on the door. Marcus Chen entered, looking worried. We have a problem, he said. The council loyalists are forming a military alliance. The Draven supremacy is leading it. They are calling all the breakaway species rebels and traitors. They are planning to bring everyone back by force. Elena stood up and walked to the window. Earth looked so peaceful from here. It was easy to forget that millions of light years away, people were dying because of decisions she had made. How long do we have? She asked. Weeks, maybe? The Draven are gathering their fleet. They have convinced several other loyal species to join them. It is going to be the biggest military force we have seen in centuries. They are coming for us first, Elena said. It was not a question. Yes, they want to make an example of Earth. If they can force us back into the council, they think the other species will follow. Elena turned to face Marcus and James. How confident are you in the barrier? Marcus hesitated. Against normal weapons, completely confident. But the Draven have some very advanced technology. If they focus everything they have on breaking through, I cannot guarantee it will hold forever. Then we need allies, James said. We cannot fight the council loyalists alone. Before anyone could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the building. An emergency transmission was coming through. It was marked as highest priority. Elena activated the screen. A Velshari captain appeared, her face desperate. This is hospital ship, Mercy of Stars, the captain said. We are under attack. Kryn raiders on one side, Draven warships on the other. They are fighting each other, but we are caught in the middle. Our engines are failing. Life support is critical. We have 4,000 children on board. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help immediately. The transmission cut to static. Elena looked at the ship's location. It was just outside the barrier, in the neutral zone between human space and council territory. How long do they have? She asked. Marcus checked the data. Less than an hour before life support fails completely. Maybe 90 minutes before the ship is destroyed by the crossfire. James shook his head. We cannot help them. If we lower the barrier to send ships out, we expose all of human space to attack. We have to think about the billions of people depending on us for protection. Elena stared at the screen. 4,000 children. The Velshari were not part of the council anymore, but they were not Earth's allies either. They were just caught in the middle of a war they had not wanted. What kind of people would we be if we hide behind our barrier while children die? Alina said quietly. The kind who survived, James replied. He was not being cruel. He was being honest. Alina, I know how this sounds, but you have to think about the bigger picture. If we expose the barrier now, before we are ready, we might lose everything. Marcus was silent. He looked at Alina, waiting for her decision. Alina thought about New Johannesburg. 200,000 people dead, while the council's fleet sat in dock and did nothing. That was the moment when she had decided to break away from the council. That was the moment when she had sworn that humanity would be different. If Earth became just another power that let innocent people die for strategic reasons, then what was the point of any of this? Drop the barrier, Alina said. Sector 7 only. Send in the fleet. James started to protest, but Alina held up her hand. We did not leave the council just to become like them, she said firmly. Send in the fleet. Save those children. That is an order. 20 minutes later, 6 Earth warships emerged from the barrier. They were Valkyrie-class vessels, the newest design that Earth had developed in secret. Nobody outside of human space had ever seen them before. The ships moved with incredible speed, covering the distance to the hospital ship in minutes. When the Kryn raiders saw them coming, they turned to attack. The Draven warships did the same. For a moment, the two enemies stopped fighting each other and focused on this new threat. That was a mistake. The Valkyrie class. Ships were not like anything the galaxy had seen before. They moved with precision and grace, dodging attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. Their weapons cut through Kryn raider hulls like paper. When a Draven warship tried to ram one of them, the Earth ship simply accelerated to impossible speeds and moved out of the way. In less than 15 minutes, 3 Kryn raiders were disabled. 2 Draven warships were dead in space, their weapons destroyed, but their crews safe. The remaining attackers retreated quickly. The Earth fleet surrounded the hospital ship. Engineers transferred over and began emergency repairs. Medical teams helped stabilize the children. Within an hour, the Mercy of Stars was under tow, heading toward Earth space where proper repairs could be made. But something else happened that changed everything. The captain of the lead Valkyrie-class ship, Commander Sarah Zhang, did something that nobody expected. Instead of destroying the disabled Kryn and Draven vessels, she offered their crews a choice. You can drift here until someone comes to get you. Her voice came over the open channel. Or you can accept our help, get your ships repaired, and we can talk about ending this war. Your choice. The Draven commander responded first. Why would you help us? We came here to attack. Because this war is stupid, Sarah replied. Everyone is fighting everyone else, and innocent people are dying. We are all tired of it. Maybe it is time to try something different. One by one, the disabled ships accepted Earth's help. Engineering teams went aboard, making temporary repairs. Medical teams treated wounded crew members. And for the first time since the chaos began, enemies sat down and talked to each other without weapons pointed at their heads. News of the rescue spread across the galaxy with incredible speed. Earth had revealed its secret fleet. Earth had saved a hospital ship while fighting off both Kryn and Council forces. Earth had shown mercy to defeated enemies. More importantly, Earth had proven that the barrier could be opened and closed at will. They were not trapped behind it. They could act when needed and retreat to safety when required. Alina watched the reports coming in. The summit invitations she had sent out were suddenly getting responses. Species that had refused to talk were now interested. Even some council loyalists were sending quiet messages asking questions. You took a huge risk, Marcus said. I know, Alina replied. But somebody had to show that there is another way. Somebody had to prove that we do not have to keep killing each other. Right! James pulled up a new report. The Draven supremacy is still gathering their fleet. This rescue might have won us some goodwill, but they are not going to stop. They are coming, and when they arrive, it is going to be war, Lena nodded. Then we need to be ready. Contact all the species who responded to our summit invitation. Tell them we need to meet immediately. If we are going to survive what is coming, we need to work together. The hospital ship crossed into Earth space, and the barrier sealed behind it. 4,000 Velshari children were safe. But across the galaxy, armies were gathering for the biggest war in centuries. The council was broken. The question now was whether something better could rise from the ruins, or whether the galaxy would tear itself apart in the chaos. 6 months after Earth's withdrawal from the council, the galaxy was at war. The Convergence War, as it came to be called, was like nothing anyone had seen before. It was not one war, but dozens of conflicts happening at the same time. The Council loyalists, led by the Draven Supremacy, were trying to force the breakaway species back under Council control. The Kryn warlords were raiding everyone, taking advantage of the chaos. Old enemies were settling ancient grudges. New alliances were forming and breaking apart every few weeks. Commander Sarah Zhang stood on the bridge of her Valkyrie-class warship, the Swift Justice, watching the tactical display. Her fleet was protecting a convoy of supply ships heading to Bathari territory. The Bathari were running low on resources after fighting off constant Kryn attacks for months. Multiple contacts, her sensor officer called out. Draven Battle Group. 6 warships, heavy class. They are moving to intercept the convoy. Sarah had expected this. The Draven had declared that any species helping the breakaway nations was an enemy of the Council. They were trying to cut off trade and supplies, hoping to starve the rebels into submission. Move to defensive formation, Sarah ordered. Protect the convoy. Do not fire unless they fire first. The Draven ships approached quickly. They were massive, much larger than Sarah's vessels. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a city. But Sarah had learned over the past months that size was not everything. The Draven commander sent a message. Earth vessels, you are violating Council law by providing aid to rebel forces. Surrender the convoy, or be destroyed. Sarah took a deep breath. She hated this part. Every battle, every conflict, meant more people dying. But she also knew that if they surrendered, the Bathari would starve. Millions of people depended on these supplies. Negative, Sarah replied. These are humanitarian supplies for civilian populations. We will not surrender them. The Draven ships opened fire. The battle was short but brutal. Sarah's fleet moved with precision, using their superior speed to avoid the heavy weapons fire. They targeted the Draven ships' weapon systems, trying to disable rather than destroy. But the Draven kept fighting even after their weapons were damaged, trying to ram the smaller Earth vessels. In the end, 4 Draven ships were disabled and drifting. 2 had retreated. Sarah had lost 1 ship, the Defender, with all hands aboard. 37 Earth crew members dead. Sarah stared at the names on her screen. 37 people she had known. 37 families that would receive terrible news. All because the Council refused to let go of its power. Convoy is clear, her officer reported. We can proceed to Bathari space. Sarah nodded. Send rescue teams to the disabled Draven ships. Make sure their crews are safe. Commander, they just killed our people, the officer said carefully. Are you sure? I am sure, Sarah replied. We are not going to become the monsters we are fighting against. While Sarah was fighting in one sector, other battles were happening across the galaxy. The Narration hives were locked in a desperate struggle with the Thalaxian Empire. The Corvesh were using their dimensional weapons to hit and run against Council supply lines. Earth forces were spread thin, trying to help their allies while defending human space. On Earth, Alina was coordinating everything from the war room. She had not left the building in weeks. The summit she had called had happened, and it had resulted in a loose alliance of the breakaway species. They called themselves the Free Systems Coalition. It was not as organized as the Council had been, but it was something. We are losing, James Park said bluntly, pointing at the tactical map. The Council loyalists have more ships, more resources, and more experience. The Kryn are hitting us from every direction. We are winning individual battles, but we cannot win the war at this rate. Marcus Chen looked exhausted. He had been working constantly to improve the barrier in the Valkyrie-class ships. We need a breakthrough. Something that changes the entire situation. Alina studied the map. James was right. They were fighting on too many fronts. Even with their advanced technology, Earth and its allies were being ground down by sheer numbers. What about the offer? Marcus asked quietly. Alina knew what he meant. 3 weeks ago, the Kryn warlords had sent a secret message. They were tired of being hunted by everyone. They wanted to talk about a truce, maybe even an alliance. But the price was high. The Kryn had done terrible things. New Johannesburg had been destroyed by them. Thousands of humans had died in Kryn raids. Could she really work with the people who had killed so many? Set up a meeting, Alina said finally. But make it clear that any alliance depends on them stopping the raids. No more attacks on civilians. No more slavery. If they cannot agree to that, then we have nothing to discuss. The meeting happened 2 days later in neutral space. Alina attended via hologram, not willing to risk her life by meeting in person. The Kryn representative was a warlord named Kesh, who controlled one of the largest raider clans. Why should we stop raiding? Kesh asked directly. It is our way of life. It is how we survive. Because the galaxy is changing, Alina replied. The council is falling apart. A new order is coming. You can be part of that new order. Or you can keep raiding until everyone unites against you and wipes you out. Kesh laughed. You think you can threaten us? No, Alina said. I am offering you a choice. Keep raiding and stay enemies of everyone, or join us and have a real home. We know the Kryn do not have many worlds of their own. You raid because you need resources. What if we could give you worlds to settle? What if you could build instead of just taking? Kesh was silent for a long moment. And what would you want in return? Stop attacking civilians. Stop taking slaves. Use your fleets to defend trade routes instead of attacking them. Help us end this war and build something better. It was a gamble. Many people in the coalition would be furious if Earth made an alliance with the Kryn, but Alina was desperate. They needed something to change the balance of the war. To her surprise, Kesh agreed to consider it. He said he would talk to the other warlords. Meanwhile, the war continued to escalate. The Draven Supremacy launched a massive attack on the Bathari homeworld. Thousands of their drones were destroyed. The planet's surface was scarred by orbital bombardment. But the Bathari held. Thanks to supplies and support from Earth and other coalition members, then something unexpected happened. A council member species called the Velshari, the same species whose hospital ship Earth had saved, officially withdrew from the council and joined the coalition. They brought with them advanced medical technology and a small but skilled fleet. Alina asked their representative during the welcome ceremony, "Your worlds are deep in council territory. Joining us puts you in incredible danger." The Velshari representative, an elderly female named Tessith, smiled gently. "You saved our children when you had every reason not to. You showed mercy to your enemies when it would have been easier to destroy them. If that is what the coalition stands for, then we want to be part of it." One by one, other species began to shift. Some joined the coalition. Others declared neutrality and refused to fight for the council anymore. The war was still brutal, but the tide was slowly turning. Sarah's fleet fought in dozens of battles. She disabled enemy ships rather than destroying them whenever possible. She offered mercy to defeated enemies. She protected civilian populations from both sides. Slowly, her reputation grew. Other commanders started copying her tactics. The Kryn warlords met and debated for weeks. Finally, Kesh sent a message to Alina. 5 of the major Kryn clans were willing to make peace. They agreed to stop raiding civilians and taking slaves. In exchange, they wanted the coalition to recognize their territory claims and help them settle new worlds. It was not perfect. Some Kryn clans refused the deal and kept raiding. But it was progress. With the Kryn raids reduced, the coalition could focus on the council loyalists. The war entered a new phase. The council's military advantage was shrinking. More species were joining the coalition or leaving the conflict entirely in the council chambers on Lumina Apex. Matriarch Kelith watched her empire crumble. The council that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was dying. She had tried to hold it together through force, but force was not enough. She sent one final message to Alina Reeves. It said simply, "You were right. I was wrong. But the blood of millions is on both our hands. I hope whatever you build is worth the price we all paid. The war was not over yet, but for the first time in months, Alina could see a path forward. A way to end the fighting and build something new from the ashes of the old council. The question was whether they could reach that future before the war consumed them all. 1 year after, Alina Reeves walked out of the council chambers. She stood in the same grand hall on Lumina Apex Station, but everything was different now. The station had been renamed Unity Apex. The tall chairs where council members had looked down on everyone were gone. In their place were simple seats arranged in a circle, where every species sat at the same level. No one above, no one below. Representatives from 40 species filled the hall. Some had been part of the old council. Many were from the coalition. A few were former enemies who had fought bitter battles against each other just months ago. Even 5 Kryn clans had sent representatives. Their warriors looking uncomfortable in the diplomatic setting. Today was the signing of the Galactic Accord, a completely new agreement for how species would work together. It had taken 3 months of intense negotiation to reach this point. There had been arguments, walkouts, and moments when Alina thought the whole thing would collapse. But somehow, they had made it. Alina walked to the center of the circle. She was not the leader of this new order. No single person was. But as Earth's representative and the person who had started this entire chain of events, she had been asked to speak first. 1 year ago, I stood in this hall and told the council that Earth was leaving, Alina began. Her voice was steady but tired. I was angry. I was frustrated. I believed that the council had failed in its duty to protect all species equally. She paused, looking around at the faces watching her. Some were friendly, some were neutral. A few still showed resentment. I was right about the council's failures, Alina continued, but I did not fully understand the consequences of what I was doing. When Earth activated our barrier and withdrew, we broke something. The old order collapsed faster than anyone expected. The chaos that followed killed millions of people. Many of them were innocent civilians who just wanted to live their lives in peace. Matriarch Keleth sat in the circle, her ancient face unreadable. She was no longer the leader of anything. The council had officially dissolved 2 months ago. But she had chosen to attend this ceremony representing what remained of the Zypherian people. I carry the weight of those deaths, Alina said quietly. Every person who died in the Convergence War, every colony that was destroyed, every family that was torn apart. I know that many of you blame Earth for what happened. You are not wrong to do so. She took a deep breath. But I also believe that the old council was dying anyway. It was built on control and hierarchy. It kept species dependent instead of helping them grow. It might have lasted another decade or another century, but eventually it would have collapsed. And when it did, the chaos would have been even worse. Alina looked directly at Keleth. The old council was not sustainable. We all know that now. The question is, what we build to replace it. One by one, representatives stood to speak. The Bethari talked about the importance of technological freedom. The Velshari emphasized humanitarian cooperation. The Serration hives discussed fair trade agreements. Even Kesh, representing the Kryn clans, spoke about the need for peaceful settlement options instead of constant raiding. Not everyone agreed on everything. There were still tensions. The Phalaxian Empire had not joined the accord, though they had agreed to a ceasefire. Some council loyalist species refused to participate, maintaining their own separate alliance. The galaxy was still divided, but it was less divided than it had been 6 months ago. The Galactic Accord that they signed that day was very different from the old council charter. There was no permanent ruling body. Instead, a rotating council of representatives would meet regularly to coordinate on trade, defense, and humanitarian issues. No species had veto power over others. Technology sharing was mandatory for member species. Ending the monopolies that had kept civilizations artificially limited, a joint defense force would be created. With ships and personnel from all member species, it would protect trade routes and respond to emergencies. But it could not be used to enforce compliance or punish member species. Commander Sarah Jong had been chosen to lead it, and she had accepted on the condition that the force would always prioritize protecting civilians over politics. The signing ceremony took hours. Each representative added their mark to the accord, formally committing their species to this new way of cooperation. When Elena's turn came, she placed her hand on the scanner and felt the weight of what they were creating. After the ceremony, Matriarch Keleth approached Elena privately. They had not spoken directly since the war began. "You were right," Keleth said quietly. "The council I led had become what it was created to prevent. We became oppressors in the name of order. We kept species down in the name of stability." Elena did not know what to say. This ancient being had ruled the galaxy for 2 centuries. Hearing her admit failure was surreal. But Child Keleth continued, her eyes gleaming. "You must understand something. The chaos you unleashed killed millions before this peace was achieved. Millions of people died in those months of war. Children, families, innocents who had nothing to do with politics or power. Their blood is on your hands as much as mine." Elena met her gaze steadily. "I know. I think about them every day. I dream about them every night. But I also think about the billions who suffered for centuries under the Council's system. The species kept in poverty and dependence. The people who died because the Council would not help them, like New Johannesburg. They died slowly, quietly, never knowing what they could have become. So you believe the ends justified the means?" Keleth asked. "No," Elena said firmly. "The deaths were not justified. They were tragic and terrible. But they were also inevitable. The Council was going to fall eventually. I just refused to wait for it to happen on its own terms." Keleth was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps the galaxy needed to break before it could be rebuilt into something better. I hope you are right, Ambassador Reeves. I truly hope this new order you have created will be worth the price we all paid." Marcus Chen found Elena later, standing by a window, looking out at the stars. "Second thoughts?" he asked. "Every day," Elena admitted. "Every single day, I wonder if I made the right choice. If there was a better way? If I could have prevented some of the deaths." "No, there probably was not," Marcus said gently. "The Council was broken. Someone had to break it completely before anything new could grow." "Maybe," Elena said. "But that does not make the deaths easier to accept." They stood in silence for a while, watching ships move through space around the station. Trade vessels from dozens of species, traveling freely now without Council restrictions. Medical ships from the Velshari heading to worlds that needed help. Kryn vessels working as escorts for convoys, protecting the same trade routes they used to raid. It was not perfect. There were still problems. Some species refused to join the Accord. Pirates and raiders still operated in lawless regions. Old grudges still simmered. But it was better than it had been. It was a chance for something new. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Elena smiled slightly. "Now we do the hard work. The Accord is just words on paper. We have to make it real. We have to prove that species can work together as equals. We have to show that cooperation is stronger than control. And if we fail, then we try again. And we keep trying until we get it right." Commander Sarah Jones' new Joint Defense Force had its first mission 3 days later. A distress call came from a mining colony in neutral space. Natural disaster, volcanic eruption, thousands of people trapped. The old council would have debated for days about jurisdiction and authorization. The new force launched immediately. Ships from Earth, Bathari, Velshari, Narration, and even 2 Kryn vessels worked together to evacuate the colony. They saved over 30,000 lives. It was a small thing, perhaps, but it was a beginning. 6 months after the Accord was signed, Elena stood on Earth, looking up at the night sky. Somewhere out there, 40 species were trying to build something new. Some days went well. Some days there were setbacks. But they were trying. Earth's position in the new galaxy was complicated. Some species respected them for having the courage to break away from the Council. Others resented the chaos that Earth's actions had caused. Most had mixed feelings, grateful for the new freedoms, but remembering the cost. Elena had stepped down as Earth's permanent ambassador. She still advised the government, but she wanted to let new voices lead humanity's role in galactic affairs. She was tired, and she carried too many ghosts, but she allowed herself moments of hope. The galaxy was free now. Imperfect, messy, sometimes chaotic, but free. Species were forming their own alliances, making their own choices, growing in their own ways. Technology was spreading. New innovations were emerging from the cooperation between different species. The Council was dead. Something new was being born in its place. It would take decades to see if it would truly work. There would be setbacks and failures. But for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had a chance to be something. Other than a hierarchy of control, Alina thought about all the people who had died to reach this point. The victims of New Johannesburg. The soldiers who fell in the Convergence War. The civilians caught in the chaos. She would carry their memory for the rest of her life. But she also thought about the future. About species working together as equals. About children growing up in a galaxy where cooperation mattered more than control. About possibilities that had not existed before. The stars were no longer in chains. They were free. And whatever came next, humanity and all the other species would face it together. As partners in shaping the galaxy's future, it was not the ending Alina had imagined when she walked out of the council chambers a year ago. It was messier, more complicated, and carried more weight than she had expected. But it was honest. It was real. And it was a beginning.